Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. Today is Friday, July 26th, 2024. I am Eys819 filling in for Stevie TPFL once again today. We have a monster 12-game slate in the MLB to break down for you today. Joining the show to help me do just that is the Chief. It's Will Priester. Will, how are you doing today?
Brother, I am doing much better. For those of you that know, I had to miss the morning grind. I got a tooth pulled this past weekend, and so I was kind of down for the count in terms of talking. Now, obviously, I could text and stuff like that, but in terms of talking and all that stuff, man, I was taking it easy, and so I am good to go now. You know, obviously my tooth is still, where they pulled it is still healing. But that's not enough to slow me down for tonight's show. So glad to be on.
Good deal, man. We're glad to have you back. Dentist is never a fun experience, especially when it's something like getting a tooth pulled or something like that. A cleaning is one thing, but when you're having a procedure done, that's never a fun experience.
Oh yeah. I listen, and I think where they had to pull this out, I might have to get an implant. We'll see, but. That's not for another couple months though, I think, because it has to like heal up and then they'll have to get a consultation and all that stuff. But other than that, Keith, when I went to the dentist a couple weeks ago, my reporting was fine, but I knew I was gonna have to get that one pulled. It was my tooth all the way in the back, where I had gotten a crown before, and I said, yeah, I already knew what was coming. But at any rate. Enough dentist talk, man. I don't want to think about that anymore.
All right, fair enough. We got a nice big slate to break down here. Let's go ahead and jump in. Say what's up to YouTube first. Appreciate everyone joining us live here. Always good to have you guys along. We've got Dave in there, D Johnson, Derek, K Towns, John Sebastian, bunch of regulars in there. So good to see you guys. Nice big slate here for us on Friday after a weird little Thursday, a really early slate Thursday. Not much action going on, as I think just one game left here on Thursday night. Your Braves took a tough walk-off loss earlier tonight. Sorry to rehash that for you, Chief. But full slate here on Friday. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. First game of the night is the San Diego Padres taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore big minus 205 favorites here. 9 is the run total in the game. Adam Mazur going for the Padres. Grayson Rodriguez for the Orioles. Any interest here in Adam Mazur here against the really tough Orioles lineup?
Nah, I'm not playing any Adam Mazur, man. Not against this team.
Yeah, no chance. I don't think I'd play him against any team. I'm definitely not playing him against this Baltimore offense. Grayson Rodriguez on the other side, a little bit more fun of a conversation. He's up at 9,400 though, and not the best matchup for him against San Diego here. What are we doing with Grayson Rodriguez?
So I like Grayson as a pitcher overall. I don't think Grayson has enough upside for me today. Now I'm saying that. I understand he could very well go out here and mush San Diego. Like, no team is above, like, getting dominated with a reasonably good pitcher. So, like, I get that. But, like, within the confines of the data that we look at on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, San Diego essentially limits strikeouts. And it's a very hard team to pitch against. Now, I know that Mitchell Parker, whatever his name is, went out there today and picked up 6 or 7 strikeouts against this team. Like I get it, but generally speaking, at 9,400, I don't think Rodriguez has got 25 to 30 point upside today, and that's what I'm measuring this on at that price. Like, can you get me 25? And when I've got Kirby sitting here and Peralta sitting here against much weaker offenses, I just don't see how Grayson fully makes the cut for me. So I don't think I'm going to play him today. I reserve the right to change my mind later on, but as of this podcast, I don't think I get Grayson, and I think I just stick with Kirby and Peralta on the high end.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. It's just too tough of a matchup, too big of a slate. I don't think we need to mess around with it. And he's been fantastic here recently, including a tough matchup against Texas last time out. I think he's one of the better young pitchers in the game. He's on his way to being a legitimate ace, but this is just not the spot where I want to target him. I love him as a pitcher. I think he's a fantastic prospect. Has really kind of established himself this year. And he's been on a nice little run, but I probably leave him on the shelf today as well, just because San Diego is so high contact, like you were talking about there. So, how about San Diego bats against him? Any interest there?
So I don't really want to pick on him either, though. That's kind of the let's call it a conundrum here. I don't want to pick on him because I don't think the San Diego offense has a ton of upside against them. Also, like, do I think they can poke some runs through? Yeah, but am I expecting him to give up 5 to 6 runs? I don't see that happening. I just think his strikeouts are limited. Maybe he gives up 1 or 2, and if he only gets 4 or 5 strikeouts, goes 6 innings, but gives up, he walks 2 or 3, gives up 4 or 5. Like, I just don't think it's enough. I know I'm still talking about Grayson, but my larger point here is I don't think San Diego has enough upside against him also for me to be, stacking him up on such a big slate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't have any interest in stacking against him. I think it's probably a situation where he goes 6, maybe even 7 innings and gives up 2 or 3 runs. And that's just not going to be good enough from San Diego here on a massive slate. So yeah. I am not targeting any San Diego stacks. Baltimore on the other side, a little bit different story. One of the best offenses in baseball. They've been up there near the top of the league in ISO all season long. So tons of power in this lineup, a very deep lineup. You can play pretty much all 9 guys here against Adam Mazer, who walks nearly as many guys as he strikes out. Baltimore is one of the top offenses on the slate for me today. How about you?
Listen, man, not only are they a top offense, can I just take a minute here to shout out Anthony Santander? Like, my gosh, he's been on such a tear here. Over the past few, Keith, he's been smoking, man. So I just wanted to mention him, but that price at 5,100 has come up. I will say I don't think he gets a lot of ownership today at 5,100 on such a big slate. He's secretly, we might hear his name later. We'll see. We get to the morning grind game. Maybe he comes up. I think he's a really good play. I'm assuming Keith, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming Cowser plays today and Mullins plays today. Like they're going to have a plethora of lefties to throw at this guy. This lineup is sensational, and I know I'm just kind of mentioned or highlighted Santander with this huge price increase, but this whole team. Like, you can play anybody, top to bottom. I mean, they got Cedric Mullins batting in like the 6 and 7 hole most days, where he was a leadoff hitter 2 or 3 years ago. Like, that's how good this team is, and he's still really good. So, Baltimore's a top stack today, just kicking off the slate.
Yeah, absolutely. Love the Santander call out. He's been absolutely incredible. The cheap guys, it's really easy to make it work because of the guys like Colton Cowser that you just mentioned. Cedric Mullins is cheap. If Kierstad is in there, he's really cheap and has big time pop. Connor Norby got the spot start on Thursday. I'm not sure if he'll be in the lineup again on Friday, but if he is, he's 3K at second base. So I'm certainly all about that. There should be plenty of cheap stuff in this lineup to spend up for the studs like Gunnar and Santander. Even Westberg's been really good this season. So whoever's in the lineup 1 through 9 definitely in play against a weak pitcher on the other side for sure. Moving on to the next game here, we've got the Texas Rangers taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto is minus 116 favorites in this one. 8.5 is the run total in the game. Andrew Heaney going for the Rangers. Yusei Kikuchi going for the Blue Jays. Any interest here in Heaney?
So I hate for all of these to be like these elaborate explanations tonight, Keith. I want to get some quick no's like Mazer so the pod doesn't take so long. So here's the crazy part. Like, Andrew Heaney has faced good offenses and kind of hasn't been getting shelled over his past 10 games, Keith. Like, he's had reasonable starts. I think he needs to get played today at 6,700, but I don't think it's single entry. I don't think it's 3-entry max. I don't even know if I get to him in 20-entry max. But, like, if I start getting past 20, Keith, like, I think this is a really interesting, deep tournament play. Toronto is a low strikeout offense, but, I mean, at 6,700, like, I feel like we used to play Heaney for strikeout upside, and now I'm just kind of playing him because I think he's been reasonably good down the stretch here. And by reasonably, what I'm saying is if you go his last 10 games, Keith, he's probably averaging, with some of these bigger starts and some of his lower starts, he's probably averaging 17 fantasy points. Like, if I told you right now Andrew Heaney was going to get you 17, you'd probably take that for 6,700 on this slate. I would. Once again, I don't like this matchup, but I'm willing to roll the dice at 6,700 with his recent skills, even against good offenses. Like, I mean, he faced Baltimore twice and has dominated this team. He's faced Houston 13. He's faced Tampa Bay. I'm not going to consider him great. He's faced the Mets. He's faced, obviously got blown up Seattle, but you get what I'm saying. Like, he faced enough good teams for him to have getting smashed or get his face bashed in, and that kind of hasn't happened. So at 6,700 on big slate where we're going to need offense, I think he's reasonable. I'll cut myself off there.
I don't hate it. I don't think it's crazy by any means. He's been really good, like you mentioned, and he's been facing tough opponents, like you mentioned. Baltimore in there twice, Houston, as you mentioned. And like you said, like, you don't need all that many points for 6,700. I will say there is one guy in the 6K range that I like a little bit better because of his matchup. And it's a big slate. So we have options. But if for some reason that guy gets some popularity, I don't hate the pivot to Heaney whatsoever. So I'm not opposed to playing him. I'm not sure that I need him on this slate, but very much in the conversation for sure.
Yeah.
If I had a lineup.
One last thing clear too, Keith. I'm only giving him if I'm playing more than 20 lineups. Like, I'm not playing him single entry, three, none of that. Like, I get past 20, he's probably going in the pool.
Yep, I think that's very fair. Kikuchi's been pretty good on the other side as well. He's up at 8,800 though, also in a tough matchup. Any interest here in Kikuchi?
Yeah, see, this is one of those weird things about this slate. Like, I think Kikuchi's been fine. I think there's strikeout upside. Like, one thing we haven't seen from him is strikeouts falling off the cliff. Like, that hasn't happened, right? 8, 6, 13, 5, 7. I mean, strikeouts are there. Sometimes he just, walks the guy in the wrong spot, gives up a home run in the wrong spot, or, he gives up a couple timely hits, and then suddenly he's giving up 3 to 4 runs. I think Kikuchi stays in the pool because of the price. If he was 9,800, no way I'd play him here. I think at 88, because of the strikeout upside, I'm going to keep him in the pool.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well. This is kind of really similar to the other Heaney on the other side. Like, he's cheap enough where I could see him getting there. I think more often than not, we don't need him. But would it surprise me if he spiked a 30-point game here? A little bit, but it wouldn't be crazy by any means. I think it's in his range of outcomes for sure. I think he's going to be low owned. I won't have a ton of him, but if I land in this price range, I am certainly okay with that. Very similar to my feelings on Heaney on the other side. Not somebody I'm going to seek out to be overweight on, but if I have a lineup where he fits perfectly, I'm okay with loading him up in there. He's been good. I think he's in the weird price range where either you go down a little bit cheaper or you get up to the true studs on the slate for a couple $100 more. So the price range is kind of an awkward position for me. But we'll see how my lineup builds break out. I'm certainly not opposed to playing some Kikuchi. How about Texas bats against him?
So this is where it gets interesting because, Abisail Garcia, when Texas was like, and I'm throwing this term out, when Texas was cold for that stretch, Keith, like a lot of their prices came down. And so I'm okay with the Garcia at 4,700 as a one-off. I'm okay with the Langford, as a one-off. Guys that have some pop, even Simeon, like at 5,200, maybe I don't get the Simeon today, but like Garcia and Langford, those cheaper guys there, I'm okay with. I'm actually not going to play Seager today. I do think Kikuchi has the advantage with him, at least for this season. He has struck out a lot more of the lefties this season than righties. Obviously, platoon disadvantage. And Seager's been good, don't get me wrong, but I just think Garcia and Langford at those prices, with the amount of power they have against lefties, I think they're worth one-off consideration.
Yeah, love those two call-outs. Those are the two names I was looking at as well. And you get a little bit of a discount, like you've said. Langford's now been in that cleanup spot pretty consistently. He's been much better than he was like the first month of the season. Only other name I'll throw out there is I don't hate Jonah Heim as a cheap catcher option against a lefty. He's got a little bit of pop. I'd be fine with him as a one-off as well. I wouldn't go beyond the a little 3-man mini stack of Garcia, Langford, Heim. No full stacks for me.
Yep. Same here.
Toronto bats on the other side against Heaney. We know he can give up the long ball. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, definitely okay with Springer. Man, long gone are the days, Keith, when I was playing George Springer for 38, 37, 3,900 in the 6-hole. He's batting at the top of the order a lot of these times, and now he's up to 4,500. Vlad Guerrero, his prices come up. Well, he's been actually one of the hottest hitters in baseball. Also, him and Santander, man, like they need to be getting some weekly awards. They've been really good here down the stretch, along with a couple guys from Oakland, but we'll get to that later. But Vlad at 49. I just think, once again, I don't know if I want to stack Toronto, but I could definitely see myself getting about 4 deep here if it breaks out the right way. But once again, Vlad and Springer, I think, would probably be my top 2 options. And then my bottom 2, I don't mind Danny Jansen. I don't mind him. Like, I think he's fine at 3,900. I don't mind Snyder if you want to get some him. I mean, I know he hasn't been crazy good recently, but at 3,400, if you decide you want to stack them, I think it just makes it work.
Yeah, I generally don't stack against Heaney just because I generally just try to find the home runs against him. That's usually how he gets beat when he is beat. But the pricing on this Toronto team is really friendly. I like some of those cheap names that you threw out there. Schneider in particular, I've been chasing him I know he's been on a slide, but I love playing that guy against lefties. He has second base eligibility, which is great. Ernie Clement is another guy you can punt third with, has been really good against lefties. Danny Jansen is too cheap for as good as he's been against lefties. So the pricing here, you add some cheap guys like that into Springer and Vlad, and you're cooking. So I don't hate the full stack here. It won't be one of my higher owned ones, but like I said, I generally don't stack at all against Heaney, and I just hunt home runs. But I don't hate the stack today just because of how Toronto's pricing sets up. Next game on the docket here, we've got the New York Yankees going into Fenway, taking on the Boston Red Sox. Yankees are -120 favorites in this one, 9.5, big total in this game. Nestor Cortez going for the Yankees, Brian Bayo going for the Red Sox. Any interest here in Cortez against the Red Sox?
Okay, so here we go.
This is a conversation. I agree. We need to have it.
This might be like the critical one of the slate, believe it or not. So Boston's been really good until you throw a left-handed pitcher out there.
And then all they strike out 30% of the time.
The strikeouts are like through the roof. And so Nestor Cortez, he just saw this team like earlier in the month. And I mean, we pretty much got what we thought we would get. 6 innings, 8 Ks, 25 fantasy points. He's 8,500. And so, Keith, I think Cortez is in play. He's in Boston. I think Cortez is in play here. This team has proven us, you throw a righty out there, you're in trouble. You throw a lefty out there, and they better pray they can score some runs. Even Devers, like, it's not like some of their best hitters are like carrying them at like a 19% K rate, and then you got O'Neal and some of these other guys. This team strikes out a ton against lefties, everybody almost. So I think Cortez is probably top 2 on this slate in terms of pitching with this price.
All right, I'm not crazy. I hate playing Nestor Cortez, but I love this spot for him. Yeah. It is a fantastic matchup here. Boston strikes out at the highest rate against lefties, and it's not close. They're at like 29+%, and the next team is under 27. Like it's a wide gap. So yeah, Nestor at 8,500. I think Boston being in Boston rather than Yankee Stadium, I think it was last time. I think that's a bit of a downgrade. Yeah, it was in Yankee Stadium that last start, but he had 8 strikeouts against him. That's really what we're chasing here. I have a little bit more concern about home runs here from Boston because the righties definitely set up better against Cortez, and Boston plays better for righty power, where Yankee Stadium plays better for lefty power. But I don't care. I'm just chasing strikeouts here. 8,500 is a great price point. Another 8 strikeouts would not surprise me by any means. So I have interest in Nestor Cortez too. I don't like it, but I definitely do. He's one. Yeah. Bayo on the other side is an interesting conversation as well because he's priced all the way down at 7,100. Strikeouts haven't quite come up to the level we expected him to. He's been okay this season. He's had his struggles as well. Gets a tough matchup against New York here. Any interest in Bayo?
I think Bayo is like purely a price play. So like for Heaney, it's a price play, but he's cheaper than, like, he's getting below that 7K threshold. With Bayo, Bayo has been reasonable, like over the past, let's call it the past month, Keith. I mean, he hasn't really got shelled outside of that Toronto game here over the past month, and I'm specifying month because he had some games prior to that where we were just scratching our heads. I think what we're hoping here is that BABIP is on his side. He can stay mostly clean, get 4 to 6 strikeouts, and I think he's there. I'm not playing Brian Bale because I think he's going to get 25. I think I'm playing him because he's in that 16 to 20 range. And I think if he gets 16 to 20 at this price, if your bats show up, you've got a shot to take a tournament down at the end of the night. And so that's where I think Bayo comes into play.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned about the upside because the strikeout rate it's only 22, just under 22%. I think he's going to be better than that long term, but he's been really solid over his last 4 or 5 starts, like you said. He does a great job of keeping the ball on the ground, so I think he has a good shot at solid run prevention here, even in a great hitter's park like Fenway. I don't hate it. I'm not sure if I need him today, but if, again, very similar to the Heaney play, if I'm in this range, I would totally be fine with him landing in a lineup, but not somebody I'm seeking to be overweight on the slate, but in play. Yankees bats here. Judge, obviously, always in play. Soto, always in play. Are you interested in stacking against Bayo at all?
Oh, man. So, God, I feel like these first 3 games are, like, interesting enough, Keith, because you talked about Judge and Soto, but then, and I know Verdugo isn't, like, some elite hitter, but, like, if you're going to stack the Yankees, these cheap guys are going to help you get the Judges and the Sotos, and that's where I feel like they come in. Volpe down to 3,700. A lot of these guys have been cheap. Gleyber Torres at 3,600. Rice and Wells. Like I just think outside of Judge and Soto, this team, if let's say you stack them 4 deep, Keith, excuse me, that gives you access to some of these other big teams. Oh, got to drink some water. Hold on a second.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying there. Like you get Judge or Soto, and then you spend down into that 3K range for a Gleyber Torres or Verdugo, JD Davis if he's in that lineup. Even DJ LeMahieu is 2,700. I know he's been horrendous this year, but outside of Judge and Soto, this team is dirt cheap. So I totally get what you're saying there. I don't love stacking against Bayo because of the elite ground balls, but he has been known to lose his control. It's a great hitter's park, so I don't think it's out of the question by any means.
Ooh, thank you. Needed some water there. My voice is still coming back to me, but I'm good. I do. Yeah, they're just so cheap with these big pieces. So I think you just need to kind of keep them in consideration.
Yep, fair enough. Ben Rice, another name I didn't throw out there. He's under 4K as well, has been picking it up here of late. Boston bats on the other side. We talked about their strikeout issues, so it's tough to want to stack this team when they strike out so much. I mean, we're talking about 29% strikeouts. That's a huge rate. It's tough to put a rally together when there are that many strikeouts in the lineup. Taking one-offs, I think, is a totally viable strategy. Tyler O'Neill against any lefty, I am very much interested in. I think you can play some of the platoon bats, like a Ref Snyder would be fine. A Romy Gonzalez, if he's in there, would be fine. Both of those guys are pretty cheap. Rafaela has a nice speed profile, has hit for a little more power than expected as well. So I don't hate these guys, but I don't love the stack. I think it's probably more a one-off home run hunting just because of Fenway Park for me. Any interest in the Red Sox for you, Chief?
I'm fading the Red Sox today. Look, Tyler O'Neill could very well hit a home run, and he probably will, like, believe it or not. But he's also going to strike out twice today. At least once. And so I'm willing to fade Boston as a whole and sacrifice those 1 or 2 home runs that maybe they get off of get off of Cortez in hopes that I nail the right stack. I just don't think Boston is the right stack today. And so I'm taking the fade.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm the fading the stack part for sure. Just chasing home runs there for me, but no stacks whatsoever. Next game here on the slate, we've got the Atlanta Braves taking on the New York Mets. Mets are minus 120 favorites here. 7.5 is the total in the game. Charlie Morton going for the Braves. Kodai Senga set to make his season debut for the Mets. Unfortunate spring training injury, so we haven't seen him all season long. Excited to see how he looks. Sounds like he's going to be on a pitch count of about 85 here in this one. He's priced all the way up at 9K. I know this Atlanta offense is a little bit watered down, but we've got a 12-game slate here, 85 pitches. Probably not enough for me to target Senga's first start at 9K. How about you? Any interest in Senga before we flip over to Morton?
Man, if he was anywhere near like super normal workload, I would be okay. I think 85 is kind of like a max. Like, I think he's got to be pitching really well to get 85 pitches today. Like, I think it's got to be close to pristine game here, Keith. And I'm talking maybe he's only given up one hit, no walk, struck out a few, and they just look like they're not going to hit him. I think that's how he gets there. I think if he gets in any type of reasonable trouble, I don't think he makes it. So I'm just going to fade him for that reason. But listen, man, my Braves, I mean, these lineups they're running out with because of these injuries, Keith, it's ugly, man. It's ugly.
I feel your pain for sure, man. Nobody's been beat up by the injury bug near as much as Atlanta. It's just, at least they're all coming in one
pitching
season
too, though. Pitching,
yeah. No, I know
everything.
It's both. Yeah. It's so unfortunate. That was such a good team, such a great job of building that roster out, and man, just hopefully they all hit you this season, and then you're good for like the next like 5-6 years, and you don't have to deal with any of this crap.
So sidebar, and now I will try to not take us down a rabbit hole again. The one guy I was actually concerned about making it through the season has literally been our best player, and that's Chris Sale. Yeah. I was sitting here like, oh my God, we got Chris Sale, we've got Strider, we've got Max Fried, and then we've got an aging Charlie. I'm like, finally, we've got like competent pitching pretty much four starts in. I'm like, this could be something here. Strider goes down, Acuna goes down, Albies goes down. Murphy didn't even start. I said, you got to be kidding me. Max Fried is out again. It's just been so bad. All right, I'm done. Hopefully Sale stays healthy, comes back next season, and I'm praying we make a run at Jack Flaherty. If we can for some way add Flaherty to this pitching staff, Jesus, next season we'd be a monster. But I digress.
All right, Charlie Morton. Any interest here against the Mets? Tough matchup.
I don't think I'm playing Charlie today, man. I mean, I think he could be fine in this ballpark. He's still a really good real life pitcher, but the upside, Keith, he doesn't have more upside than Cortez today. He just doesn't. So in the 8K range, I'm kind of cutting the fat there. Morton is a part of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like the upside here. The Mets don't strike out enough. It is a great ballpark to pitch in, but the Mets are doing enough here. Their bats are heating up. Morton slightly above average on the strikeouts on the season, but just not quite enough upside for me at 8,600. Agree would much rather take shots on Nestor. I think I'd even put Kikuchi ahead of him for a couple 200 more or whatever it is. How about bats in this game? Any interest in stacking Braves?
I can't, man. I think we're banking on Senga just like not having it if we're going to stack the Braves. I can't stack the Braves right now, man. I mean, I look at this team on TV, Keith, and it's just this is like a double A team. I can't do it.
Yeah, I hear you. I think, like you said, you do a full stack and hope that Senga it's his first start of the season. He's had control issues in the past. Maybe he comes out and walks 3 or 4 guys in the first 2 innings, and he just cannot go past like the 3rd inning. And then you get some pretty bad bulk relievers in there. Maybe it works out that way, but outside of that, I don't have a ton of interest either. and then you factor in the ballpark downgrade as well, going into Citi Field as opposed to being there in Atlanta, which is a nice hitter's park, especially this time of year. Mets on the other side against Morton. Any interest in stacking them?
Yeah, I'm not stacking the Mets either, Keith. Once again, I don't think Morton has crazy upside, but he's still a legitimate, really good real-life pitcher. Like, going to keep the ball on the ground some. Like, he's not going to go out there and give up 10 runs. Like, that's just not who he is. So I think even though the Mets lineup is really good, I think, I don't think they have enough upside against Morton today. Now, if you're trying to sell me on some one-off with Lindor or Nimmo or something like that, like, I'm perfectly fine with that. Perfectly fine with, a one-off on Alonso. But, like, I don't want to stack this team at all.
Yeah, I agree. Tough ballpark to hit in. Morton is an above-average real-life pitcher. So the Mets are way down my list today. I like the Alonso one-off call. That'd be where I'm looking. We do need to talk about Francisco Lindor as well. He's been red hot here recently. So I don't hate him as a one-off. He is significantly more expensive than Alonso up at 5,700. But I certainly don't hate him as hot as he has been. But no stacks against Morton for me. Chat going crazy there over the Oakland A's, man. This team, I don't know what got into them, but they have been just incredible here. Daz Cameron just homered. What's that?
So Vegas is getting into this team.
yeah, maybe.
Get one out.
I had lineup on lineup HQ today. I had salary savers, and Daz Cameron was one of those tags. So I was on him as well. Good to see that homer. Yeah. Next game here on the slate, we've got the Seattle Mariners at the Chicago White Sox. Seattle is minus 164 favorites here. 7.5 is the total. George Kirby going for the Mariners. Drew Thorpe going for the White Sox. Talk to me here about George Kirby, one of the best matchups in all of baseball.
Oh, man, 9,600. I mean, this is why I don't really want to play Grayson today, Keith, or like try to stretch to it. I'd rather just condense everything into Kirby. Here's why. It's a big slate, so I'm not expecting him to actually be over-owned. Over-owned is relative. And so on a 12-game slate, I don't think he gets past 25%, Keith. And I'm okay with that. I just think this matchup's too good. Kirby's a guy that while we don't view him like, a Scherzer or a Strider or DeGrom, and I'm naming guys that aren't even pitching right now, or Paul Skeens or something. We don't view him as one of those guys. The matchup can help increase the upside. And this matchup with the White Sox, as we saw, Keith, with Eovaldi earlier this week, who in my opinion, Kirby and Eovaldi are similar. They're not identical. They're similar. Guys that can eat through innings, pick up strikeouts along the way. I mean, we saw Eovaldi go, 8 innings, 8 Ks, 9 Ks, something like that. I'm not saying Kirby's going, 8 or 9, because typically he doesn't go much past 6. But I think he can get to 6 innings, 6 or 7 Ks, and be pretty clean here. And his team should be relatively close in line for the win here, especially facing Thorpe on the other side. So I think Kirby, I think Kirby's in the camp where I think he can get 25 or more today. And that's why he's one of the top plays on the slate for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm right there with you. Good callback to Eovaldi. I think that's a great comp on what this matchup is like. We don't think of Kirby as like a massive upside pitcher, but the Eovaldi example was fantastic. And shout out to Tim Buell, Tasteful Tides, was all over Eovaldi on the Morning Grind podcast the day we broke that game down. And it was a loaded pitching slate. There were plenty of 9K options. And Tim's like, no, Eovaldi is my favorite guy on the slate. The White Sox are that bad. And then he goes out there and he puts up the ceiling game. So great call from Tim on that one. I'm right there with you. I think Kirby is in a fantastic spot. Sometimes I think we chase strikeouts a little bit too much. I'm talking to myself here for sure. Like, I'm always chasing strikeout pitchers. Kirby is not an elite strikeout pitcher. They've picked up a little bit here recently, but this matchup against the White Sox, you can pretty much lock in 6 innings. The W looks pretty good as well. So those are points that we don't often factor in that you still get points for those in DFS. So definitely love George Kirby in the spot. Drew Thorpe down at 6,600 on the other side. Any interest in trying to find some upside here against a high strikeout Mariners team?
So I do think Thorpe's in play, and this is probably your 6K guy that you like. I think he's in play, Keith, because of the Mariners' struggles in the strikeout department. So he's 6,600. I think he can pick up. Now, once again, Keith, I'm not saying he's getting somewhere near 7 or 8. I think 4 to 5 is reasonable. And if he can stay pretty clean, he can get you 15 to 20 fantasy points. And at this price, I think he's in consideration. Do I think Seattle should win this game? I do. Do I think that means Thorpe doesn't have reasonable upside for his price? I don't. I think this price is right for the picking here, and I think he'll pick up the strikeouts.
Yeah, my only concern on him is that we haven't seen the strikeouts show up. He had a lot of strikeouts in the minors, but so far in the majors, and we're not talking about a huge sample size here, the strikeout rate is all the way down at 15%, 15.4 to be precise. So I am concerned, and we've seen low strikeout pitchers rack up strikeouts against the Mariners plenty of times. So yeah. I do think he's in play. He's not the guy that I'm personally targeting in this range.
Gotcha.
He's a little bit later on in the slate, but I think he's in play. It's a huge slate. I don't know if we need him. He's very much in that Andrew Heaney conversation. Like, at least there's enough options in the 6K range. We should have spread out ownership. So you pick your favorite one, play the guy that you like, and I think one of those guys is going to help win a tournament today for sure. So, and the fact there's so many options, they shouldn't have all that much ownership. If one does, like if the guy that I talk about later on is going to be 25% owned, and Thorpe is going to be 10% owned, well, then I'm going to change my stance. I'm going to play a little bit more Drew Thorpe. No doubt about it. So Seattle bats against him. I think they're in play as well. They've got enough power in this lineup, chasing one-offs like Cal Raleigh, Mitch Garver, both of the catchers. If they're in the lineup, I definitely like Jorge Polanco, a guy you can certainly play. Yep. I don't know that I full stack them. A little bit worried about the upside, but I do like chasing home runs here with their power hitters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely the way to go. I'll throw Luke Raley in that mix also, I think. Another guy that has a little bit of pop. So, yeah, I think we're in agreement there. I'm not full stacking them either, but I probably feel more comfortable hedging the Seattle and Thorpe combo than any of these others. So I'm with you 100%.
All right. How about White Sox against Kirby? Tough spot for them.
No, I will legit have zero White Sox, Keith. Like, I'm not playing Lewis Robert. I'm not playing anyone from the White Sox. Like, they're all getting X'd out.
Yep, same. No reason to attack as good as Kirby is for DFS on this slate, he's a fantastic real life pitcher as well. So no thanks for me on White Sox. Next game here, we've got the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Houston Astros. Gavin Stone going for the Dodgers, Framber Valdez going for the Astros. Houston slight -116 favorites here. 8 is the run total in the game. Any interest in Gavin Stone against Houston?
No.
None for me either. Low strikeout matchup, low strikeout starting pitcher. Just no upside here for me. Framber Valdez on the other side, tempting us a little bit with the price, 8,200, but he's got the Dodgers. Any interest?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to play any Framber. Once again, like, I just think we've got enough like options in each salary category that we don't have to necessarily stretch. And I think Framber could be good, but I also think it's a little bit of a stretch. So I'm not playing Valdez.
Yep, I'm with you. I don't like to play Framber Valdez in any matchup, let alone against the Dodgers. The price is a little tempting, I would say. I do think he's a better pitcher than that price, but massive slate. I like way too much other stuff on this slate. I would say the 8K range might be the weakest, like as far as like what you're getting for the price. It's probably the range that I will avoid the most. I think they're all in play, but I don't love any of them. Where I'll be overweight on some of the top end guys. I'll be overweight on a lot of the lower range guys as well. So no Framber for me.
3. I think I'm going to play in the 8K range. And we've already talked about 2 of them. One's Kikuchi and the other was Cortez.
I think I'm going to go a little cheaper today. Like maybe some shots on Heaney, Drew Thorpe, maybe. Somebody in chat just power nailed my guy. Kyle Harrison. We're going to talk about him. We're going to love that matchup with the Rockies on the road here. So Kyle Harrison is going to be a big part of my exposure unless he's like massive chalk. Let's see here. Where do we leave off? Bats, Dodgers against Valdez here. Any interest?
Yeah, I don't mind the one-offs, Keith. So, obviously Ohtani, man, you can always play Ohtani. Will Smith against a lefty here, you'll get no kickback from me. Obviously I think Kiki Hernandez I think he should crack the lineup today, Keith. At least I'm hoping he does. I mean, he's 2,900. He's facing lefty. I think he might crack the lineup. If you're deciding that you want to stack the not Boston, the Dodgers, and he cracks it at 2,900. I definitely think he's in there. And then of course you got Teoscar Hernandez at 5K. If you trust what he's doing this season, and he's another one of the big bats. So I think there's enough cheap guys and expensive guys to make it work. If I play the Dodgers, I'm hoping Kiki cracks the line. I think he will, but I'm hoping he will because at that price, you throw him in, and then if you can get Pages in as well with some bigger bats, it just really helps balance out the salary.
Chris Taylor went on the IL. They did sign Nick Ahmed, who actually homered on Thursday night. Good for him.
Of course he did. Nick Ahmed's been around a while too.
Yeah, he has. Defensive star. We don't think about homers from him too much, but good to see him get one. Another cheap righty. I think there's still enough spots there that Kike's in that lineup though. But just with the Ahmed signing, maybe he sits, but I think they'll both be in there. All right, Houston bats on the other side. Any interest against Stone?
I do like Houston today. Houston hasn't been as prolific for me, Keith, as I've wanted them to be in terms of consistency throughout the season. They're too low of a strikeout team to not be scoring as many runs as I'm accustomed to them scoring. But I mean that can happen when you've got one of your bigger bats like Kyle Tucker. You're not able to drive in a few extra runs. But with Jordan at 57, and then obviously we've seen Jeremy Pena be good this season. We've seen Bregman really come on as the season went along. He was dreadful early and has really kind of turned his season around as it's gone. At 4,400. Obviously Altuve 5,400. And I think I mentioned Diaz. If I didn't, I'll mention it. If I did mention him, I'm just going to mention him again. But Diaz has been solid for them. Once again, I think this is a low strikeout team at home, and I think they're going to have some chances to drive in some runs. So I do want to get them in my pool and stack them up a bit today.
Yeah, I'm always good with stacking Houston. I agree. Like it feels like they've underperformed, but without Kyle Tucker, it's hard to blame them. Bregman's been much better, like you mentioned, so I'm good with him getting in a stack. Altuve's been a little bit down this season, and he's still fully priced as well, so it's tough to click him. Jordan is obviously the standout here, but the other cheap guys that you mentioned, I'm good with as well. I think it's fairly easy to make the stack, especially if you're comfortable leaving out Altuve. It's really easy to make the stack. So, and I'm not afraid of Gavin Stone by any means. So I do like a little bit of exposure to Houston here. All right, next game we've got the Chicago Cubs taking on the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City minus 152 favorites here. 9 is the run total here in the game. Kyle Hendricks going for the Cubs. Brady Singer going for the Royals. Any interest in Kyle Hendricks?
No.
None for me either. He is washed. As a Cubs fan, he spiked that one big start against, who was it against? I don't even remember now. San Francisco, maybe. But he's been pretty atrocious outside of that one good start that he's had this season, all the way down at 5,800. But I still have no interest against Kansas City. And then Singer on the other side, I'm pretty interested here. The Cubs offense has been just absolutely brutal since Bellinger went on the IL. They're striking out way too much. The season's over. I think they've packed it in. They're getting ready to trade off a few pieces here over the next week, I think. So Singer, not a guy that I generally love to play. He's had a great season. You wish his strikeouts were a little bit better. He's right around league average for the season. But this matchup against the Cubs has me pretty interested here in Brady Singer at 8,100.
Yeah, and that this is my last guy at 8K. Like this is the one that's right on the edge, 8,100. Definitely Singer. Definitely think there is some upside here. And Singer has been a guy that I just haven't been able to peg all season. I take him in a good spot. He fails. I take him in a bad spot. He dominates. But at any rate, against the Cubs here, I'm with you. Like he should be able to put together some type of a quality performance. Even if you told me right now, Keith, if you said, yeah, Singer gets you 23 today, 22, I'd take that in a heartbeat at 8,100. So I think he's a good play for this slate today. And it'll also help you open it up for the backs. Like I don't mind playing a Singer and a Heaney combination to open it up for me to get one extra big bat, something like that. So I think, that's what these 8K guys and little cheaper guys are going to do outside of playing like your Kirby and Peralta. These lower guys are going to give you access to some really nice bats.
Yep, I think that was a fantastic breakdown there. Good matchup for him. I think there's a little more ceiling than we're used to for Singer.
Yeah.
How about bats against him? Any interest here? Let's start with the Cubs.
Yeah. I'm not going to play the Cubs today. I respect Singer enough with where the Cubs are in their season, Keith. Sorry, to just not play them. I want to treat them kind of like Boston today, or Boston and what's the other team we're complete? There's another team we're completely fading, but I'm going to treat them like one of my complete fades. I won't have a single bat from this team today.
I don't hate chasing some cheap power here. No stacks for me against Singer. But if you want to, and it's not the best home run ballpark either, so it's mild interest at best. Ian Happ is probably the guy I like the most. He's been quite hot here recently. Michael Busch has been pretty good as well. They're pinch hitting for Busch a little bit more than you'd like to see here of late, though. I don't love that. So Happ is definitely my favorite guy to chase for power here, but no stacks with the Cubs for me either. Kansas City on the other side, I have a feeling we're going to be stacking these guys up against Hendricks.
Oh, man. Give me this whole team, Keith. I've been, Vinny P, 4,800, don't care. Perez, 4,900, don't care. Garcia, 42, don't care. I don't even have to mention Bobby Witt. To just go ahead and play him. I wonder if Adam Frazier's going to make the lineup today. He might. Like, they had him in a weird leadoff spot.
They've been leading him off recently. Why are they doing that? Like,
I
just
don't
lead
know,
off Bobby Witt. Come on.
I don't know. But if that's what they're going to do against Kyle Hendricks, he gets played at 3,400 leading off. If nothing else, Keith, he can get a single 2 or 3 times and get driven in and squeeze his way to 12 fantasy points. I think he's in play. So once again, I'm playing this whole team. Whoever's in the lineup, they're in consideration for me.
Yeah, I agree. 1 through 9, you can stack them up. Hendricks has given up a massive amount of hard contact. The strikeouts are gone at this point in his career. He was never an above-average strikeout guy, but have completely disappeared. Kansas City, I stack Kansas City a ton just because I always want exposure to Witt and Sal Perez and Vinny P. But now that they've got Massey back, I like him as a piece. Renfroe is a guy that's pretty cheap and has power. So I like stacking the Royals quite a bit. This is a great spot for them here against Hendricks. And also I'll add the Cubs bullpen has been atrocious as well. As painful as you feel as a Braves fan, I'm feeling a lot of the same pain here as a Cubs fan. Just kind of a lost season.
Yeah.
Kind of a lost season, but we move on. Next game here, we've got the Miami Marlins taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Minus 220 favorites are the Brewers. 7.5 is the total in the game. Trevor Rogers going for the Marlins. Freddie Peralta on the bump for the Brewers. Any interest here in Trevor Rogers? Another one of these cheap 6K guys. 6,100 is the price tag on Trevor Rogers.
So I think Rogers is going to be fine. I think he's going to be the 6K guy that I kind of just don't play because while I think he could be okay, I do trust this Milwaukee offense enough, even though he is going to see a fair amount of lefties in this game. I think I'm going to let Rogers sit on the shelf, but it's not because I hate him. I can't play every 6K guy, and I think I like Heaney and the guy from that's facing
Thorpe.
Seattle, and Thorpe. But it's because Thorpe, the strikeout upside, while he might not be a strikeout upside guy, the matchup could help him. And so I think that's why he's going to come in ahead of Rogers for me. So Rogers, he's kind of on that spot where he's just not going to make the cut. But if you said, hey, I want to play Rogers, like, I'm not going to fight you. At least 6,100, that's really cheap for a guy that can get you 15,
Yeah, I have some interest. And I don't know how many 6K guys I'm going to play and exactly what my exposure is going to be to them as we sit here recording the night before.
Starting to feel like that's all we're going to play, Keith.
I know, right? and I know I'm going to play a ton of George Kirby and a ton of Freddie Peralta on the other side of this game. So how many spots do I have left once I factor in my Kyle Harrison stuff as well? I'm running out of pitching spots to allocate. So I like this spot for Trevor Rogers a lot, though. Milwaukee has been much worse against lefties than they have against righties. You've got Christian Yelich on the IL for them as well. It's a team that's just struggled against lefties all season long. So while Rogers isn't great and nothing to write home about, 6,100 from a guy who can give me 100 pitches against a team that struggles against lefties, I have some interest there. I don't know if I need him on the slate, but I am totally fine with playing him. I'm going to play the ownership game. The more and more we get through this breakdown, I think I'm just going to end up playing the ownership game down in the 6K range and just go underweight on the guy that gets the ownership. I have a bad feeling it might be Harrison, and then go overweight on guys like Heaney and Rogers and Thorpe. But we'll see what ends up happening with ownership tomorrow. Freddie Peralta on the other side. We know the strikeout upside is massive. The matchup against Miami is fantastic. 9,800 is a very fair price tag for this spot for Freddie Peralta. How much Freddie are you going to have here?
Probably about as much as Kirby, depending on where this ownership shakes out, Keith. Because once again, it's such a big slate. It seems like we're playing a lot of pitchers. We're probably not playing as many as we think. It's just we kind of like 2 in the 9K range, 2 or 3 in the 8K range, another 3 or 4 in the 6, 7K range. So it feels like probably more than it is. But in the 9K range, it's just Freddie and Kirby for me. And so I am going to check ownership on this one. I do plan to be overweight. So like if Freddie's coming in around 20, I'm probably going to try to get about 30, if that makes any sense. And then like if Kirby's coming in around 20, 25, I'm going to try to probably at least get 10 to 15% over the field on those two guys, because I do think either of these two guys could be like legit slate breakers. Now, once again, I am going to be well over the field on my guy from on Cortez also, but I don't think Cortez is going to get nearly as much ownership as these two guys. So I could be wrong, but I don't think he will. But yeah, in terms of Peralta, he's one of the top pitchers on the slate, man. Got as much strikeout upside as anybody here.
For sure. I am definitely not playing any bats against him. That 30% K rate leads the slate. No Marlins for me. In the interest of time, we'll go ahead and flip it over to the Brewers bats here. Rogers is a little bit more attackable. Any interest in a Milwaukee stack?
Contreras and Adames, could be really good pieces here. But generally speaking, I'm not playing Milwaukee, but I don't mind the one-offs with those guys.
Yeah, I think chasing home runs is fine. I wish they were a little better against lefties, because it feels like they should be. Like Contreras is a guy who's been awesome against lefties in his career. Rhys Hoskins, the same thing. And neither of them have had all that much success this season against lefties, which is just weird. Gary Sanchez has had a ton of success against lefties and this year and in his career. So love him at 3,300. If he cracks the lineup, he should be back in there, especially with Yelich on the IL. They should have a DH spot available for him. Churio is fine at 3,500, but I agree. I think I'm more chasing home runs than I am stacking in the spot, but I'm certainly not afraid of Trevor Rogers by any means. Next game here, Washington Nationals against the St. Louis Cardinals. St. Louis is minus 164 favorites in this one, 7.5 total. Mackenzie Gore going for the Nationals, Sonny Gray going for the Cardinals. Mackenzie Gore has an attractive price tag here at 7,500. Any interest here against the Cardinals?
Gore's been, man, he was kind of a spring training darling for me, Keith. I mean, He was pitching really well and kind of came into the season pitching really well, and maybe just getting a little tired. I'm going to attribute it to that, because I know his skills didn't suddenly fall off a cliff. Man, it feels like this is one of his biggest workloads he's seen. I mean, I know he's been pitching, but like he's pitching a full season, hasn't been hurt, going about 100 pitches almost every game. I think he's a little tired, Keith. And, as a result, I don't think I'm going to play him even at this price. I think I like some of these 6K guys more. And if this was, the beginning of the season St. Louis team, maybe. But this team has gotten a lot better as they transition throughout the season. And so when they've gotten better and Gore's gotten worse, I'm going to fade him. I will not be surprised if Gore goes for 30 fantasy points. I just don't think that's the case tomorrow. Or today.
On a different slate, I would be all about taking a shot on Gore in this matchup. The form has been awful, like you mentioned. He got blown up against Cincinnati his last time out, was pretty bad against the Mets, and then faced this St. Louis team earlier this month and wasn't great. He hasn't been working deep into games. He's been walking way too many guys. Yeah. Strikeouts are down. It's just form doesn't look great now. So I agree. I think we just take a pass.
He's either tired or hurt. It's one of the two.
That's what I was going to say. I was just going to say that. I really hope he's not hurt, because the trend does not look good here. So I'll be passing. He's an electric arm. I love watching him pitch. I was with you in spring training. I thought this was like a breakout arm, and he was going to have a fantastic season. Started out that way, but he's hit a road bump here for sure. So maybe just needs an IL stint, and hopefully he'll come back strong. But recent form, I don't think we can play him today. Sonny Gray on the other side here, 9,300 for him.
I like Gray, man. Gray's actually probably one of my favorite pitchers in baseball. Like, generally speaking, just following his path from the Athletics and, moving up, going to the Twins. Like, I think he's actually a pretty good pitcher, but I'm not doing it today. In that 9K range, I got two guys that I like more. Washington is a fairly low strikeout team, not a whole bunch of power, but they're low strikeout enough for me to keep Gray on the shelf here. Another guy, wouldn't be surprised if we went for 30, but I'm going to trust these other two pitchers in these better matchups.
Yep, I agree. I like the other two 9K pitchers as well. I like Nestor Cortez better as well, even from like raw point standpoint. It's just the low upside matchup against Washington, who is a pretty good contact team. I think there's a good chance he can get through 6 clean innings. I'm just a little bit worried about the strikeouts in this spot for the price tag. So I agree. I will probably be off Gray as well. He's a very good pitcher. It's a good enough matchup from a run prevention standpoint, but for DFS upside, I'll probably leave him on the shelf here. I'm not playing any Washington bats against him. I can tell you that.
Nope. Same here. Will not be doing it.
All right. We're flipping it over to the St. Louis side here. We talked about Gore's struggles. For that reason, I might have some interest here. Talk to me about what you like for St. Louis, if anything.
I'm close here because I think they started leading off Mason Wynn some. And so if he's going to be the leadoff bat here and kind of set the table for some of these guys, then I'm in. They've been batting Paul Goldschmidt, I think, somewhere between 6 and 7 in some of these games, Keith.
Yeah.
Look, man, he's been a good hitter throughout his whole career, and he's just getting older, and maybe I don't want to call him washed up, but maybe he's just going to need to have a different role. But I don't mind some mini stacks of St. Louis here with the way Gore's been struggling. I think it's advantageous to just kind of put together and see if you can, nail the right bats. And if you do, you could be sitting pretty. So I do like this team because of the spot.
Yeah, I like them as well. I love the Mason Wynn call. I like that a lot. Wilson Contreras is the guy I want to play, but the price tag is all the way up to 5,200. I don't love the price. He's been great against lefties. Not sure who else is going to be in this lineup. We got a couple of St. Louis fans in chat. I know they're talking about how there's a different lineup every day. So have to see what the lineup looks like. I think with Gore's recent form, you can take some shots here. I don't know if I get to any full stacks, but certainly be fine with a mini 3-man or something like that. Next game on the docket here, we've got the red-hot Oakland A's taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Oakland minus 134 favorites here. 9 is the total in the game. Mitch Spence going for Oakland. Carson Fulmer going for the Angels. Not a name I expected to be saying in 2024, but it's the Angels, so that's the kind of things that we get. Let's talk about Mitch Spence first. Another 6K guy. I wouldn't call you crazy for playing him. It's the Angels. He's right-handed. Right-handed pitchers against the Angels have been a thing to target this season. 20% strikeout rate. Like, I don't think you're crazy for playing Mitch Spence, but we've been saying it the whole podcast. Like, how many of these 6K guys can we play? And we still have one more to talk about too. So
exactly. I think Mitch Spence is going to end up in the props category for me today. Let's see if they give us a strikeout prop of somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5. I'm assuming 4.5, and I think I'm going to take the over. But I'm not playing Spence in DFS only because we've just got a plethora, Keith. And that's including Bayo at 7,100, who's right on the edge. I just think we have a plethora of pitchers that have better skills, if you will, than I think Mitch Spence has in general. And so I'm not playing Spence today, but he will be a target for me to prop game for sure.
I like that call. I'm with you. Like I've kind of said it. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. He's totally in play if you want to play him. If he's your favorite 6K pitcher, I would not argue against it. So in play, I don't know how much of him I'm going to play, but the matchup is fantastic. No Fulmer for me on the other side. No leash. This Oakland offense is insane to say, but They're number one in WRC plus. They're number one in ISO. Like, it is just insane what this Oakland offense is doing. I don't know what got into them when the calendar flipped to July 1st, or it was a couple of days before that, but it has just been an incredible run. Fulmer doesn't have enough leash here, so no chance we're playing him.
No, and I'm sitting here with a stack of Miguel Andujar autographed rookie cards. I'm talking about PSA 10s. BJ. It's time to unload these things.
I think it is. Yeah, you may not have a better opportunity. All right, talk to me about these old Oakland bats. They're still cheap enough too, where it's just crazy at this point.
Keith, I'm just going to put a bull on with that. I think they're still too cheap for the type of production we're getting, and it's not like they're facing some ace pitcher today. So they're in a better ballpark than their ballpark. So fire them up. Let's ride the wave, man.
Yep. Totally agree. Ballpark upgrade. Not scared of Fulmer. He walks way too many guys. I know he's been pretty good this year out of the bullpen. He's only made 2 starts, I think it is. So he doesn't have the longest leash anyway. The Angels bullpen is not good. You're going to get probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 innings out of an Angels bullpen. So I love this spot for Oakland. I think they're, the price considered, one of the better stacks on the slate. Lawrence Butler's been on fire since he moved to the leadoff spot. Langoliers is a guy that I absolutely love to play because of the power. They're just loaded with power. Everyone in the lineup has power. That's why they're such a good DFS stack. So a couple 3-4 home runs, not out of the question by any means. I will have a ton of Oakland. Angels on the other side against Spence. Any interest there?
I think I'm going to fade the Angels, man. I just think, too big of a slate. I've got some other spots, with cheap bats that I want to attack. So I'm not playing any Angels.
I'm with you. Like, I'm not afraid of Mitch Spence. There's just not a really talented offense. It's hard to string together 5 hitters in this lineup that you feel good about. So no stacks for me. If you wanted to play a Logan O'Hoppe one-off, I'm totally fine with that. Even one of the power guys like a Joe Adell, I'd be fine with, but no interest in stacking for me. All right, 2 games left, almost there. Pittsburgh Pirates versus Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are minus 178 favorites here. 8.5 is the total in the game. Luis Ortiz on the mound for the Pirates. Zach Gallen going for the Diamondbacks. Any interest in Ortiz here?
No.
We've talked about so many 6K pitchers that we sort of kind of like and are in play. I don't imagine how you could pay $7,300 for Ortiz. Gallen on the other side, 9,100. Good matchup here against Pittsburgh. Any interest?
I'm just okay with it, man. I still don't think he's quite right from coming back from injury. Like that's really all it is. He should dominate this matchup, but I still think something's off, Keith. So something, and I know something's off. I can't. Maybe I just need to hop in baseball savant and do a real deep dive and see if it's something with his velocity or spin rate. But something's off, and I know my boy Yeezy saying no Reynolds. But this is less about Pittsburgh and more about Zach Gallen. I feel like he's still not quite back. Now, that probably means he goes out and gets 30 fantasy points today. But I don't like him better than Kirby. I don't like him better than Peralta. And he's not crazy expensive, but I don't like him better than Cortez. It's just too many guys he's falling behind for me today. So I'm fading him because I think something's wrong, not because the matchup's bad.
Yeah, I think that was very well said there. Even though he was pretty good against the Cubs his last time out, 6 walks, what is that? That is not Zach Gallen that we know.
You get what I'm saying? It's
that's just weird.
What is happening?
Yeah. So I'm with you. It's too strong of a pitching slate, I think, to want to mess with it. I will say his home road splits are really interesting always. He pitches great at home for whatever reason. I don't think it's crazy if you like Zach Gallen at probably low ownership because of how many strong options there are. I don't know. It's not crazy. I think I'm with Chief on this one that I will be fading him just because I don't think he's quite right at this point.
That's literally all it is. I mean, if he had 2 reasonable starts strung together, Keith, if we had a start like this against Toronto and then you kind of started seeing him putting it together, I'm all in. But he's been back since late June. And outside of that Oakland start, we really haven't seen much. It's been really rough for him. So and Atlanta's not there. Now, Toronto, I'll give you a pass. But Atlanta and Chicago, like, get it together, buddy. And I'm also looking at the hits, too. Now, in the Chicago game, he did only have 3 hits, but the 6 walks, unreal.
Yeah. It's tough. Do you want to stack against him for that reason?
No, I don't think this lineup has enough upside. I mean, give me somebody, like, if he was facing, I'm trying to think of someone that's like reasonable, Keith, but not like explosive. I mean, if he was facing Detroit today, I may have even taken a shot. Like, they've at least got some guys that can knock it out of the park and drive some runs in. But I don't trust Pittsburgh here with Reynolds out. I can't do it.
Yeah, missing Reynolds is a big piece there. So I agree. I think Gallen is okay enough where he can still limit the damage, but
yeah,
again, especially against this offense, I don't have any interest here. Arizona against Ortiz.
Oh, love Arizona. This is one of my favorite spots today, Keith. And we're gonna get a little bit of semi late night hammer because I think more people, big slate. I think ownership will be low regardless, but I think a lot more people are going to be into Kansas City. I think a lot more people will be into Baltimore. I think a lot more people will be into Seattle here. You get what I'm saying? I think a lot more people will be into Houston. I think the slight late hammer here with Arizona has me very intrigued. Obviously, I'm going to like these lefties, but I just can't leave out Christian Walker, man, who's been having a spectacular season. And while it might feel like he's cooled off a bit down the stretch, still just professionally picking up fantasy points, slate in and slate out. Very seldom do you see him put up duds. Like, he's getting you 9, he's getting you 12, 8. So when the big nights come, you just got to be on them. And I think this could be one of those nights at home.
Yeah, I like that call. I'm interested in the stack here. Ortiz has his command issues. So Arizona, a very stackable team. Love the Christian Walker call. Kettle Marte has been red hot as well.
Yeah.
Jock Peterson, a guy I always like to chase power with. Eugenio Suarez is kind of the same deal. I like this Arizona team. They've been better here in the last month or so. It's been a struggle for them most of the year against righties, but they've been a little bit better here recently. Part of that is Kettle Marte coming on with a nice little hot streak here. So I'm on the Arizona stack as well. Final game of the night, Colorado Rockies at the San Francisco Giants. San Francisco minus 168 favorites in this one. 8 is the run total in the game. Kyle Freeland going for the Rockies. Kyle Harrison going for the Giants. Any interest here in Freeland outside of Coors?
Listen, man. I think I would have played Freeland. I just don't like the back-to-back start. It may not matter. He's 5,500. I mean, he's been fine, but I just think I'm just not going to play him for that reason. The back-to-back start just kind of has me off. But, I mean, he could be just fine in this spot, man. If you want to play Freeland, I'm not going to tell you otherwise.
The biggest thing he has going for him is he is the cheapest pitcher on the slate. So if you're throwing darts in this low range, like it sounds like Chief and I have a little bit of interest in doing on this slate, I don't think you're crazy
Freeland
if you don't have.
Yeah,
if you don't have 6,700 to get up to Heaney or 6,900 to get up to Harrison, and you're fine with Freeland, I think that's viable on this slate. Just being out of Coors is a nice little boost to him. He's been pretty solid here actually over the last month, so I don't think it's crazy. It's a big slate. I like a lot of the 6K pitchers. I don't think I'm going that route, but I don't think it's crazy by any means. Kyle Harrison on the other side is really the guy I'm excited about. Just a young pitcher who had a ton of talent. Took him a little bit to get going here. Strikeout rate is coming around. It's up to 20%. This Colorado lineup is just, they have not hit anything all season long. They strike out a ton. They're outside of Coors Field. Like, it's a brutal lineup. And Kyle Harrison, I think, is on his way to being a pretty solid starting pitcher. And I think the more strikeouts are coming too. Like, his stuff coming up in the minors was incredible. So a prospect I'm excited about, a matchup I'm excited about, a ballpark that I love the target pitching in. Everything is set up here for Kyle Harrison, and he's $6,900. Like, that's it. That's still in the argument. I think he's going to have a really nice game. I think he has upside for 20 pretty easily here. 25 wouldn't even shock me. So at that price, I'm going to have quite a bit of Harrison, unless he's like mega chalk. If he comes in, I don't know, 25 or 30%, maybe I end up underweight on him. But my plan is to be overweight him, even if he's 15, 20%.
Yeah, Harrison's in the same boat for me. Like, it's a back-to-back start, but I may just have to suck it up, man, because once again, they're not expensive plays. So I'm gonna combo Freeland and Harrison. I'll just say I think they make the cut, Keith, because of these spots. Like, these teams are a bit rough to both of these pitchers. So I think they get played. It depends on where the ownership is. I'll probably be slightly over the field, but if Harrison gets up to like 20%, I may be slightly under, but it won't be like 10.
Right. I think that point you made about ownership there is really important. Like, we feel good about some of these. I don't feel great about any pitcher under 8K even. So if one of them is going to be pretty popular, I find a pivot is going to be my strategy on this slate. Personally, as we break it down the night before, Kyle Harrison is my favorite. But if I have to pivot off of that leading up to lock, I'll be totally fine with that.
Yeah. Yep. Gotcha.
All right, man. We made it through all 12 games. Let's go ahead and jump over and play the morning grind game here real quick, and we'll go ahead and get on out of here. First question here. Give me a pitcher under 8K to go for 6 strikeouts. Plenty of options today.
Yeah, man. We got a bunch. I was trying to decide who I kind of want to settle in with. And I think I'm going to go Thorpe, man. I once again, I know he hasn't done it. He probably ends with 5. But because of the matchup with Seattle, I'm going to give him 6 here. I'm going Thorpe.
I like that call. Definitely a high strikeout spot for him. So certainly okay with that. Kyle Harrison is my guy. Love the matchup for him against Colorado. I think the strikeouts are trending in the right direction as he gains a little bit more experience. So banking on that prospect status a little bit too. I don't love the back-to-back start, like you said, especially targeting strikeouts in that, but he struggled a little more than expected in that last start. So I think he has a little bit better one this time around. A pitcher over 8K to score less than 15 DK points.
Yeah, give me. I think I'm going to go with Charlie Morton against the Mets. I was thinking about Senga, but I feel like he's already kind of baked in. Like, he's not going to be going too deep. Give me Morton against the Mets.
Yeah, I don't hate that call at all. Mets have been heating up. Morton, not the biggest strikeout guy. The Mets make a lot of contact. I'm going to go Framber Valdez against the Dodgers. Just a tough matchup. Strikeouts have been down for him. He's walked a few too many guys recently. So I think Framber falls a little bit short today. How about over 4K to hit a home run?
Listen, man, Anthony Santander, I've been talking about it. We mentioned him early on. I said we might hear his name again, and we are going to hear it. He's been hot. Another really good matchup for him, Keith, against Mazer. The ISO's there, the low strikeouts when he's batting from the left side. Just he's been fantastic. So I'm going with Santander at 5,100.
I love that call. I'm going to stick with – I wanted to go somebody on Oakland, but most of them are under 4K. So my one option is Brent Rooker. I could go Langoliers too, who I also love. But give me Rooker to go yard here today. Oakland just keeps banging out homers. You love to see it.
Yep.
All right. Under 4K to get 2 hits. Who you like?
So this one was tough for me, Keith, because I just felt like there's just a whole lot of guys, right? Like, and there's just a whole lot of guys. So I'm going to stay in that same game because I love this. I love this spot. Cedric Mullins is too cheap at 3,600. I can't avoid it.
We are on the exact same page because Colton Cowser is the same conversation. You're a really good hitter, right next to him in the lineup, right next to him with the price tag. I love it. Awesome spot for Baltimore. And they have plenty of guys who are too cheap in this spot. Give me a stack to score 6 runs.
I'm not going to go Baltimore because we've talked about them the whole time. So let's go with an alternate here, Keith. And this is the team I talked about at the end of the night. Love the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think this is the late night hammer. Give me those guys.
Yep, love that call. Baltimore is the team I had written down as well, but we everyone knows we love Baltimore. I'll pick another one here also. I will go. Give me Kansas City against Kyle Hendricks. I think they beat him up pretty good today.
Ooh, yeah.
All right, player props. Any bets standing out to you?
Okay.
I know you. Go ahead.
So let's talk about this. So right now, it's looking like, Keith, and I'm saying it's looking like Cortez is going to come out at 6.5 on most of the books. I think that's where it's going to come out, and I'm going to take that. I'm just telling you, like, anything at 5.5 is going to be probably a little bit too juiced. But so my assumption is he's coming out at 6.5 based on what I'm looking at right now. And I just think, Keith, that's going to be a good angle here against Boston. I mean, we can't stress enough how high the strikeouts climb for this team when they're facing a reasonable lefty. And Cortez still does have some strikeout upside. So I'm assuming he's going to be at 6.5 most places, and I'm going to take that over.
That is one that I had written down as well. And I said I was hoping for Nestor at 5.5. And if that comes out, I would be all over that. The 6.5, I think I'm on the over there as well. It's just a great spot for him. As far as matchups go, it's about as good as it gets. Only issue is the ballpark, but I think he can limit the damage with the strikeouts. So definitely chasing some Nestor props as well.
I've got one more that I think this one's off, Keith. I think it should have been 5.5, maybe for probably -120 or something like that. That's what I think it should have been. That's Brady Singer. We're getting him at over 4.5 at -135 on DraftKings. I actually think that's really good. I think that's really good.
I think that's really good too. I watch this Cubs offense way too much. They're going to swing and miss. I think Singer can get over 4.5, even with a little juice there. I think that's a really solid number. Yep. Yeah. How about any money line or totals that stood out to you?
Oh man, my bad. Let me go back.
Very good.
I always have at least one of these that I feel like they mispriced one of these every night. It's just one that's just like, how did we get here? And believe it or not, go ahead. What I've got.
I was just going to say, when I opened it up yesterday, I felt that exact same way. Like the Tampa Bay line just jumped off the page at me. Like, as good as Taj Bradley had been and Chris Bassett had not been great. Yeah, and it was a pick'em game. I'm like, Taj Bradley should be favored in this matchup, no doubt. So we got that one yesterday. So pressure's on to get another one here today. What do you got?
I'm going back to the spot because of everything we've talked about, Keith. I don't know how the Yankees are just -120 here when it's Cortez and Bayo. And, I mean, everybody in the world knows at this point that the Red Sox are striking out a ton. I mean, -125. I think I feel like, once again, this is me just giving my opinion now. This isn't some statistical database. I think I was expecting them to be around -140 here. And it's probably because they're at home, so that's probably cut it a little bit. But at -125, that feels a little off to me. So I like that one for the Yankees at -120.
I'm with you.
-125.
Yep, I think that's a really nice price for Cortez and the Yankees in this spot. So in complete agreement. There wasn't anything that really jumped out to me. The one I was looking at was the Royals at -140. That's a little more juice than I'd like to play. I like the Royals to win the game. I don't know if I trust them enough to go with the run line of -1.5. That's at +140 if you like that better. I do think the Royals win and probably cover the 1.5. But I'd probably just pay the juice on the money line. Give me Royals -140 for mine.
Yeah.
All right, that'll wrap it up. Anything else before we go ahead and get out of here?
Negative, man. Chief had fun, man. First show back since the little, minor tooth thing there. So it was fun and super glad to hang out with you, brother.
Yeah, you as well. Glad you're feeling a little bit better. Massive slate. So many decisions to make before we get to lock. We're going to have to trim this pitcher pool in some way, but should be a fun slate regardless. So appreciate everyone hanging out with us in the live chat. Always fun when we have some people along with us, but good luck to everyone on Friday. We will be back next week. I believe Stevie's still out for a couple days early next Monday. and Tuesday, but I believe he's back Wednesday, maybe Thursday, but he will be back at some point next week, and you can be done with me as a host, but we're hanging in there. Good luck to everyone on Friday. Take care.